Good.
I'm going to give a few minutes for people following and then
Sure.
we'll roll. All right, good afternoon, everyone. We will begin our media availability today with Chase Elliott, driver of the number 9 Napa Auto Parts Chevrolet. If you have a question, raise your hand. Randy will bring you a mic. Please state name and affiliation before you ask your question. Sorry, Jeff.
I'm just wondering, like, it was kind of hard to tell, I guess, a little bit in practice what everybody's trying to accomplish, because it seemed like maybe people were drafting together a lot more. So is that sort of like, has the point of practice changed now, where people are just ready to go out and see how their car handles in traffic right away?
Well, I mean, I think it was an important piece of today, because that's, the reality of what you're going to see in the race, and I think it's going to be hard to get away from people for at least a while. I don't think it's going to be like some of these other races that we've had this year. It seems like the grip level of this track, racing at night too, I think is another thing, and it being cool, is probably going to accomplish, I think, what they were trying to accomplish, or maybe not completely accomplish it, but push it more in that direction than what we've seen at some of the other intermediates that we've tried to plate race at. So I think that was why you saw everybody together more today, because I think you're going to probably be around each other a little more than what we've seen.
Questions for Chase? Nick?
Nick Bromberg, Yahoo Sports. Now that we're basically a third of the way through the season, what's the biggest takeaway you've had so far this season?
I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of takeaways. I mean, the biggest takeaway for us is just having a victory this early, which is nice. Aside from that, we've had some mediocre runs. We've had a couple races where I felt like we had an opportunity to win, and some races where we didn't have a fighting chance to win. So, having a victory is nice, and that's our biggest takeaway right now. Just to continue to be dynamic, because everything is just changing and evolving, and every time something changes, it takes a lot of effort to figure out what's the best thing for that change, and that when something does change, it offers opportunity to either catch up or get behind. So I just making sure you're able to make changes and do them quick, because this deal is, the rules have changed rapidly.
Brett Williams, SpeedwayDigest.com. I guess my question was kind of similar to that. Just how's the Hendrick Motorsports as a whole feeling going into the first 1.5 mile track since Texas, with the improvements over the last couple of races or so?
Yeah, I think it's better for sure. I still think we have room to improve and do a better job yet, but definitely the performances over the past couple weeks have been nice, and I think that helps. So we'll see. So you get your report card every week, so we'll find out.
We'll go to Lee, then Jerry.
Lee Spencer, RacingBoys.com. A couple of questions. Jeff Andrews was encouraged, I guess, by what he saw at Texas and expects even further improvements here. What are your early observations on Kansas?
I think honestly kind of hard to say because of the groups in which we were out there driving around, and it just wasn't exactly like the race, because you'd have guys getting up to speed, which would kind of jumble up the packs and stuff. So honestly, until we race, I really don't know. So we'll see.
And are you encouraged by seeing Alex Bowman, another one of your teammates, showing some success? Kind of shows that there could be potential across the board, just not just with the number 9 team.
Yeah, no, as a company, that's good, right? You want to, if we're all running better, we're all increasing the health of Hendrick Motorsports, which is, at the end of the day, I'd say a good thing, and we're also pushing each other to do a better job. So yeah, I think it's good.
Jerry Jordan, kickingthetires.net. We'll look forward to next week in the All-Star race. Your thoughts going in that, your strategies, breaking that competition down.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I don't even know what the rules are next week, so I couldn't tell you. But I think it'll be exciting to be in the race for the first time, be locked in, and you know, whatever package it is next week, it'll be great. And look forward to being a part of the big show for sure.
You guys not go over that in advance at all, or you just wait for it out and it comes out?
I've lost track, so yeah, we'll just roll with it, and like I said, you know, whatever it is, and I'm gonna push as hard as I can with whatever the rules are. So I look forward to it.
Go to Claire.
Claire B. Lang, Sirius XM NASCAR Radio. Your fans seem to be really enjoying the fact that you're enjoying it a little more, that you're kind of, you know, when you have success, you seem to be enjoying it more and having it be okay that people are going nuts over you when you win and that sort of thing. Are you more comfortable with that now?
I mean, I don't really feel like I've changed a whole lot from that perspective. I think it's always nice to do good, you know, or get a victory or whatever that makes, you know, running well or getting a win, however that comes about is, you know, is probably a good thing. So, yeah, I don't really feel like I've changed a whole lot. I've always tried to enjoy it. So, yeah, I don't know. Good question.
Scott Trailer, RacingBoys.com. With the 550 package, how long can you run flat out, and can you run flat out? And if so, how difficult is that going to be to set somebody up getting up off the corner for the next corner?
Yeah, it's definitely going to be tough. You can run wide open for a long time, and when you're by yourself, you really should be able to run wide open the whole time. And if you do lift, it's very little. Seems like when you do lift, it's you know, because a guy, you know, you ended up picking the same lane as him or something like that. So I think it's just going to be about going where the guy in front of you isn't, to get out of his wake. But you know, as crazy as it is with 550 horsepower, we're still going, the corner speeds still feel pretty high. So I think it'll be, I think you're kind of asking a question on how the draft is going to play and whatnot. I still think it's going to be about getting runs and you know, using that draft to your advantage, but it's just going to be about the clean air. It's not going to be like a Talladega or Daytona look to it for sure. It's still going to have to be where the guy in front of you isn't, to where you have your car, you know, in fresh air, which is always important at these places. And yeah, like I said, the corner speeds are still pretty high, so we're still not going slow enough to create that kind of racing and be just comfortable all the time and pushing and shoving and things like that all the time, I don't think.
Go to Reed.
Reed Spencer with NASCAR Wire. You've had the last 4 wins for Chevy. Do you feel like you're sort of carrying the load for the bow ties?
I mean, you know, nice to have wins. Obviously, I think as a manufacturer, I think the more that we all run better, we're all going to help each other. Much like you know, Alex's, you know, good runs the past couple weeks, I think are good, you know, good for the company as well. Just like I think, you know, Chevrolet having good runs is good for the manufacturer. So I don't necessarily think we're carrying it. Any of the Chevrolets could have won Talladega, and that wouldn't even be a relevant question. So you know, it's nice to have won some races, but no, I think that narrative could have changed, you know, pretty easily a couple weeks ago to somebody else.
Dylan Sherwood with the Emporia Gazette. Chase, what's different coming back after you won here in the fall?
I mean, lots different. You know, obviously the rules and the you know, it being a nighttime race versus an afternoon race here in the fall. You know, it's pretty cool this weekend. So I think that's obviously the race is gonna look, I think, different from what we saw here then. So I'm excited to see what it is. It's definitely been a different practice session than what we've seen at these other places where we've been, you know, big spoiler and the high drag and stuff.
Anything else for Chase? Bob?
On the spot. Quick question.
Bob Hawkers, Fox Sports. You don't have to worry about the fan vote this year as far as the All-Star race?
We just talked about this.
Oh, did we?
No, I'm just messing with you. We kind of did, but I just said I was excited to be in the race, you know, for the first time, which is really nice, not have to worry about it.
I'm curious, do you care who wins? Are you rooting for somebody? Who do you
In the fan vote?
Yeah.
That's a good question. I'll be honest with you, I need to look and see who's even in it. I mean, my teammates are in it, you know, but, you know, I don't know. I'd have to look. So you might pick an underdog, you know, aside from your teammates are the obvious one, right? You'd be politically correct. I could pick one of them or both of them or want everybody to do good, but might be somebody cool you'd like to see win it, you know, over just the politically correct answer.
Lee Spencer again. You were so great out front last week at Dover. A lot of guys said it was tough passing, but it seems like if you can come from the back of the field, but once you get up to like the top 15 guys, the cars are all the same. The talent's pretty similar. You know, how are you going to distinguish yourself and be the guy that can make that move short of doing it on a restart?
Yeah, it's going to be, you know, it's going to be tough. I think you're going to have to be smart with everything, and that's where, you know, pit road and the sequence of pit stops and when you pit and how you get on and off pit road. I mean, those are the details that I think are even more important now. But I mean, you know, it was tough last weekend for sure, especially there at the end. You know, it was very difficult to make something happen. So it just puts more emphasis on those situations, like you say, restarts and pit road and pit stops, and you know, not just how fast your pit stop is, but how fast you get down pit road and how fast you get inside your box and get stopped and let you guys go to work and how close you are to your mark. All those things are just that more important, and you know, that's why you see the guys that are really good at that stuff typically towards the front, because they're gaining spots at times where people tend to forget about.
Jeff?
So like when stuff like that happens, do you feel like you have a voice with NASCAR where you want to point that stuff out to them? Obviously, some other drivers were like kind of high profile about it this week. Or are you just like, hey, you know what, I'll race whatever. You know, you'll wait till later in your career to sort of make those kind of opinions known. How do you approach that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. I mean, I think there's certainly a right way to maybe bring it up. You know, frankly, I've tried to voice my opinion at different times, or in those meetings that we're supposed to voice our opinions in. And you know, at the end of the day, I've kind of come to the realization, and maybe this will change as time goes, but I just don't think that my opinion really matters to the people who make the rules. And you know, really and truly, I'm not sure that it should, right? I mean, why did the owners and the drivers and the teams even have a voice, you know, in some of that stuff, really, when it comes down to it? Just make the rules and be done with it. We're trying to make everybody happy. We're racing. You either like it or you don't.
Anything else? Cool. Chase, we appreciate the time.
All right, thanks.
What's that?
Parking skills, your Napa photo.
Oh, yeah. Well, that parking lot, in my defense.
So, as you can see, we are joined by Kurt Busch, driver of the #1 Global Poker Chevrolet. If you have questions, raise your hand. We'll bring the mic. Come back.
Dylan Sherwood with the Emporia Gazette. Kurt, with you being one of Clint Boyer's former teammates, what was the relationship you had with him when you were at Stewart-Haas?
Yeah, Boyer's one of those true racers that you always are curious on what he's going to say about his car or how he's going to approach a certain qualifying session or practice session. And he always did it lighthearted, did it with fun, did it with swagger. And yeah, Boyer always lit up the room with his honesty. And it made it fun. And so, I mean, he's just one of those true dirt track racers from the Midwest that likes to go out there and sling the dirt. And there's days when he puts his collar on and straightens up and he comes to the asphalt races.
We'll go to Jerry, Lee, then Bob.
Jerry Jordan, KickingTheTires.net. Asking about next week's All-Star race. Your thoughts going into that, if you've given it any consideration at all?
Yeah, All-Star race next week with a little bit different front splitter and a hood configuration. I'm really looking forward to what that package will bring. The package here this weekend has been intense. It's been fun. It's a challenge already with the way practice has been shaken up, because out there by yourself, you're wide open, and it almost gives you an indication that your car's handling too good. Then you jump into the draft, and you're out there in pack drafting like Talladega, and the car is all over the place, with pushing, loose, and the way the car's sliding around. And so it's a big challenge. I mean, the track conditions right now are cool, but it's still not going to be like what it will be tomorrow night in night conditions. So with next week, All-Star Race, again, it's a new package, a different track, and there's so much to learn. And so I think that's what you're feeling from a lot of the drivers is the continuity and the patterns and the consistency isn't there right now, because each week we go to these tracks for the first time, the packages are all over the place. And so even like a tire that we ran last week, I think this is the same left side tire, it's acting completely different at Kansas than what it does at Dover. So right now, a lot of people are just kind of bouncing around like a ping pong ball on their setups, and that's why there's the action.
Lee?
Lee Spencer, Racing Boys. First of all, can you talk a little bit about the Poker Face sponsorship deal you guys have going on this week?
Yeah, with Global Poker, it's a great advertising campaign to create attention for our brand. With Global Poker, they want everybody social media-wise to activate onto their site and to send in their best poker face. And then there's going to be a chance for a grand prize type of effect for tons of people to have their face literally on our race car at Martinsville Speedway in the playoffs. So it's a fun initiative, social media-wise, awareness-wise, and more action and traction for Global Poker for everybody to send in. It's a hashtag your poker face, and send that on in, and then that way you get a chance to get your face on the car.
And Boyer's turning 40, and since you've already kind of passed that milestone, can you give him a little bit of advice as far as what he has to look forward to?
Boyer will probably be midlife crisis status. I don't know. he's gonna take it pretty abruptly. It's interesting with each year that you come back to the tracks and the experience level that you have and the confidence level and cresting 40, I've just had to learn to ignore it. I feel like with this package, the way that our sport feels right now on this youth movement and this exuberating and fun challenge, I feel like I just have to revert back to being 25 again, and 40 is just a number.
Bob?
Bob Hawkers, Fox Sports. As you were talking about tires earlier, it sounds like that they're not wearing as much because you guys don't maybe slide the car as much. I mean, how much difference do you, like, how noticeable is maybe the lack of tire wear or just the difference in tire wear this year compared to last year?
That's a good question. It's tough to really even describe it because we're going through the corner. Like last week, we were going through there 17 miles an hour quicker. And we had the horsepower last week to challenge the car on corner exit. This week, the horsepower is down, and so it comes back more into drafting. And if you're out there in clean air, you hardly have an issue with tire wear. But when you're in dirty air, when you're back in the pack, you're working twice as hard, then your tire wear really increases. And so it's a weird, the rich get richer, or the fast get faster. When you're up front, you don't have as much tire wear and tire air pressure buildup. When you're in the back, or like 5th place back on to 15th, those are the guys working the hardest, and those are the ones that see the most tire wear and the most air pressure buildup.
Claire?
Claire B. Lang, Sirius XM, NASCAR Radio. It was really interesting what you said about, the different packages every week. Is it a situation, is that why the drivers are a little frustrated, and that if we do it again, say next time, you would then figure out each individual week, and when it's the second time we do this, that you guys wouldn't be as frustrated, or are you thinking there should be kind of the same package all the time?
Well, it is basically the same package at the 1.5 miles, but we're going to the tracks for the first time. And so Kansas is acting completely different than what we thought, and the most recent notes for 1.5 miles was Texas. But Texas has two completely different ends of the racetrack, where it's high banked in turns 3 and 4, flat, what we call flat. It's not banked as much in turns 1 and 2. So this feel in the car today, everybody's kind of, our group at Ganassi is like, this is almost more like Vegas. Mm-hmm. And the last time, Vegas was from March. So we're jumping back 2 months, but also we've learned so much since March. that's again throwing more oddities into the balance and the feel of what the drivers are feeling. So I think when we come back here, for the playoff race, it'll be much more calm, so to speak.
And it also has been described to us as more of a mental game, like a chess game kind of thing, which would seem to fit right up your alley. You and your brother, actually, that have kind of are strategic racers.
There's the Talladega and Daytona effect that's starting to happen now on the mile and a halves because we are wide open. But the handling still comes into play, but what happens is it's more like a light switch. And that's where the good teams will learn how to take off the sharpness and the edginess that the cars have, and that way you race better in the pack. You race better in the draft.
Alexa Henry and Motor Racing Network. I have 2 questions, actually, right here. Obviously, next week we go back to Charlotte in the lead up to the Coke 600. Can you describe, when you did the double a couple of years ago, the preparation you did physically before, during, and after, just so that you could physically go for both races?
For me, I started January 1st as a mental approach to working out twice as hard. And the gym was 3 hours from 3 miles from the house. And so I would run to the gym, then do the exercises and mix things up, whether it was martial arts one day, a lot of cardio another day, strength training another day, and then run back home. And so I was really prepared with all of the extra physical activity. And then I checked in with Jimmy Johnson about nutrition and adjusting things for the month of May, and then went on what you would call a super low-carb diet the week of, and then carb-loaded on race weekend. And I felt like Superman. And the preparation from myself mentally, physically, with nutrition, the actual 1,100 miles were, I'm not going to say easier than I thought, but I was prepared, and I did it months in advance.
And then my second part is, can you describe what a big weekend for racing all over the world Memorial Day weekend is?
Yeah, I love Memorial Day weekend. It's a chance for all of motorsports to shine. I was always looking forward to getting to USA Today and seeing what they would put on there from Memorial Day weekend in the sports section, to see the cars in Monaco, or to see the cars in Indianapolis, to see our cars at Charlotte. It's like an unofficial weekend for motorsports to shine, and it kind of kicks off summer. Kids are getting close to getting out of school, and you always hope that it motivated families to come out to our events and racetracks around the country.
Go to Nick, and then we're actually going to have to wrap with Kurt so we can get Joey in here. Sorry, Jeff.
Nick Bromberg, Yahoo Sports. You mentioned all the new variables that are now in play here, and obviously earlier in the season. How do you as a driver adjust mentally to that, knowing that the notebook of data you have in your head built up is probably thrown out the window now when you got out today?
It's been wild. Everything seems to be different. Even like media sessions, we now have to do media after qualifying, and that was usually just for the top guys and the top rookie. There's media sessions for the top manufacturer, or the fastest laps in practice. There's just so many new things. You just got to roll with it. But a lot of, I think, the driver's frustration was the process in qualifying, and now we've got that nipped. And so I think there's a new freshness, a new feel, and the product on track still needs to be talked about on race weekend, and not how we got to that. But there's just the racing action. That's what I think we need to try to focus more on.
All right, thanks, Kurt. Appreciate your time. Kid. We are now joined by driver of the number 22 Shell Pennzoil Ford, Joey Logano. If you have questions, raise your hand. We'll bring you the mic.
Hi. Trying to.
No?
This seat
Switch seats?
Yeah, switch the seats. That was really high. All right. I fit better over here.
Questions for Joey? Jeff?
It just seemed like, I could be wrong, but compared to other practice sessions on mile and a halves and stuff so far this year, it seemed like everybody was more jumping into drafting, just like kind of the heck with single car stuff. Like, is it pretty much the mentality now that you're going to be hammering around other cars a lot, so you just got to work on that from the start?
I think so. Yeah. You know, I think everyone just realizes that you're gonna have a lot of wide open time here, and the more wide open time you have, the more the draft will come into play, and you'll have to be around other cars for those reasons. So the difference between clean air and dirty air, balance-wise, is quite a difference because the speed's faster for one, and you don't have this much downforce. So if you go out there and you're easy wide open by yourself, well, what are you learning, right? But when you get into traffic, like you're going to race, then at least you can start working on your car. It makes it more challenging to work on your car because it's hard to get a consistent run. You know, other racetracks, or in the past, the way we've done things is you want to get clean air, so you at least have a clean read of what's going on. You would say, well, I was in traffic, so maybe the change didn't do this or not. Well, now it's like, well, I'm in traffic, but every scenario is a little different. Like, I had a car closer to me this time. I had 3 cars in front of me instead of the 6 cars in front of me, and you know, you got a lot of variables to try to work yourself through, and that's challenging. It's pretty challenging out there to work on your race car, but it's kind of the only way to do it.
Who keeps track of that? Like, do you have engineers going, oh, well, this run you only have 3 guys in front of you versus, like, it's got to be, do you have to keep track of that in this?
I think you have somewhat of an idea, right? I mean, I can see my windshield, like, it's clear, so I can see through it, which is good. And so I'm able to kind of, you know, I try to put myself in the position that I want to be to try to get a decent read. But it's hard to do because a car will come in or a couple cars will pull out, and all of a sudden you're in a different situation. So you kind of got to take it from a global view, like, well, yeah, it helped a little here. And, you know, it's just kind of hard to really pinpoint where exactly in the corner and be as precise as we used to be.
Jerry?
Jerry Jordan, KickingTheTires.net. I got 2, actually. One, looking at the All-Star race for next weekend, your thoughts on that, and any strategies going into that competition?
The strategy for the All-Star race is always all or nothing, right? Get $1 million on the line. That's all that matters. I don't know who finished second there last year. So you go for it. You got nothing to lose, right? You have no points. It's such a fun race for that reason, because if something happens, you go, oh, well, and you move on to the next one. You don't have the penalty that comes with it, with not having the points that you lost. So, yeah, you go for it. For me, it's one of the most fun races, maybe the most fun race of the year for me. I really enjoy it because everyone's so aggressive. Everybody's the same way. You know, everyone has the same mentality. They hang that $1 million carrot out in front of you, and we all kick it up a notch, and that's pretty fun.
And the follow-up question is, this past week, NASCAR changed the 3 tracks for air ducts on the car, Pocono, Homestead, and Darlington. Your thoughts on that and what you think it'll do to the action on the track?
Yeah, it's pretty simple. We just haven't been using much brake, you know, and to try to keep the rules the same throughout all the series. I sit in some of these meetings where they talk about this stuff, and just to try to keep it all the same instead of having some with, you know, brake ducts, drag ducts, and you have more parts and pieces, and it just costs the teams more money, right? And you have different development cycles, and because you have kind of 2 different aero packages in a way. So you might as well, if we're not using the brake like we kind of thought we would, then we might as well take that out and keep that the same. So I think that's a good move by NASCAR there, just to keep it simple. Probably saves the teams a couple bucks. Probably not a whole bunch, but a couple. So it's directionally the right way.
Lee Spencer, Racing Boys. A lot of drivers complained about not being able to pass last week, but you were able to come from the back of the pack and get back up to the front again. What do you think the difference was for the 22 compared to some of the guys that really got mired in traffic?
Yeah, it was really an execution day. You know, we got back to 6th or 7th. But in all honesty, that's as good as we were. You know, I can't say that as far as the cars around us, we were much better than that. Perfect day, maybe we finished 4th. But we had a pretty well executed day, and we finished 6th or 7th. You know, we made that pit call to go out and get a stage win, which I thought was worth it. And we paid the penalty by going back to 24th or so. And it took us a while to get back to 6th or 7th. We definitely needed cautions and good restarts, good pit stops. We needed to execute to get our way back up there, because it was going to be hard hard to move your way up there, but we slowly picked off one here, a couple there on a restart, and next thing you know, you're in a decent spot. So, it was challenging, but, I feel like for us, we did our jobs as far as executing throughout the day, and that's what picked up positions as the race went.
And you mentioned the All-Star race. Would you wreck a teammate to win?
No, you can't do that. You can't just go out and wreck it. Really anyone, because you're going to pay the price. Believe me, I know. So I don't. I think it's probably not a wise decision. I've always said moving someone is one thing, wrecking someone's something different. So that's kind of my opinion on it. And I think you got to race that race the same way you would any other race, because it's the same competitors. Yeah, we're more aggressive, but it doesn't mean you're going to go out there and just dump people.
Nick Brownberg, Yahoo Sports. Chase said because of the conditions tomorrow night, he's thinking that the field will end up being a little closer together. Do you agree with that? And if so, does more cars being closer together then give the opportunity for the drafting effect designed to kind of overtake that dirty air balance and shift it more in the direction of you being able to use the draft to pass people rather than getting stuck with the dirty air?
Yep, you're right on it. Yeah, that's exactly how it's going to be. Cooler temperatures will bring the pack closer. The cars today in practice, I think it was surprising to a lot of people how much we were lifting actually in that draft. The cars are really sliding all over the place when you're in dirty air. And the temperature's a little warmer right now, the sun's out, and when you get to a night race, it's going to bring the pack closer together. And it's funny, it used to be the other way around. When we were lifting a lot, we wanted the track temperature to be hot and the track rubber up a lot so the track would get really wide and we could move around and do all the stuff. And now you want it cooler so you're more wide open, and that's what brings the cars closer and more wide open time, kind of like you were saying.
Jeff?
This might be stupid, so I'm just trying to figure out if this could have any connection. So since you're talking about how it's cooler and it's going to be more like probably the races in the fall, like this is probably going to be like the last race that handles with cooler temperatures, because you would think after this, the 600 is going to be hot. You would think by the time we get there. And all these other mile and a halves of summer, Kentucky, Chicago, or whatever, it's going to be hot, hot, hot. So it's not going to be anything like this. Is there any chance that like this race, given the cooler temperatures, would be like used as a reference point for the playoff races this fall, just because like you're not really going to apply it to like a Kentucky, right? Would you?
Yeah, not really. Yes, it's, I think this race has some similarities to what Charlotte may be like. Even though it's cooler, we're still lifting. You're going to lift when we go to Charlotte. We've kind of lifted at every racetrack with this 550 package. About everywhere. Even California, we were lifting a fair amount. Texas, you're lifting in one corner at least. So you're going to have that piece of it. Kentucky is a place that you're definitely going to lift a lot into 3. So everyone's going to be probably bringing some downforce to that racetrack. But this track here, I was thinking that you're going to have kind of a mixed bag, kind of like a Michigan. Like you might have some guys that think handling's important, and some guys think that getting the drag out of the car is important, and maybe somewhere in the middle is where you want to be. Maybe shifted one way or the other is where we want to be. So I think those are the things we'll learn here this week is how far one way or the other do we want to be when you come to a racetrack like Kansas compared to a place like Texas or California, Vegas, Kentucky, name them. I think each track you're going to kind of want a little bit something different, depending on how much you're into gas.
Bob?
Bob Pockris, Fox Sports. There's been some talk this week about whether NASCAR is kind of listening to what the feedback they get from drivers. I'm curious if you feel like they are listening. Do you feel like that maybe they take input but maybe just choose different directions? And then also, as now having won a championship, do you feel you have any bigger of a voice with NASCAR?
Yes. To answer your question, yes, I do feel like they listen to us. As drivers, I say us as drivers. But I also realize that we are not the only players in this game. There's plenty of other members that have a invested interest in what we do. You think of our fans for one, right? It has to be a good race. It has to look good. It has to be good passing. You know, our TV partners will weigh in on that, right? Our media members will weigh in on that. The team owners will weigh in on that. And yes, the drivers weigh in on that. Do I feel like the drivers have a great view of what's happening? Yeah, probably better than anyone, right? Because you can do all these CFD studies and show me all these squiggly lines, but there's nothing like real life, right? There's nothing like until you get out there and you actually feel it. And there's only 40 people that really know what it feels like out there, right? And so, you know, I feel like, you know, the drivers really have a good opinion of what's going on, but we also have to realize, you know, almost take a step back and look at it from a global view and say what's best for our sport. And there is a lot of good metrics going on right now, as you guys have all seen them. As far as, you know, whether it's ratings or approval and all that stuff, everything seems to be trending the right way. You know, Dover was a little different, but, you know, it wasn't awful. I mean, there was still some good racing back and forth. There's a lot of different things. It's just different. So, you know, to answer that, I do feel like our voice is heard. I just feel like it's not everything, and it probably shouldn't be everything because there's other people that need to be heard as well, or other groups, I guess you should say.
Anything else for Joey? No? Thanks for your time. Appreciate it.
All right, thanks.
Thanks. Pick the lucky one.
What's up, Jeff? How's it going, guys?
We'll continue media availability with driver of the number 95 Digital Momentum HubSpot Toyota, Matt DiBenedetto. Please raise your hand. We'll bring a mic if you have a question. Start with Jeff, Bob.
Maybe he's been doing this all year, but your team owner, like, owned Twitter this week. Can you give us some insight into his personality and is his Twitter personality pretty much how he is in real life from what you've experienced?
Well, I'm definitely a proud guy, honestly, to drive for Bob, because he is a really, really passionate individual. I mean, he always wants to be a man of the people, I guess would be, you know, the best way to explain to him. So he's always responding to so many people, and he's very new to social media. So it's kind of like, you know, when I don't know, younger kids first get on social media and, you know, are on it nonstop and obsessed with it. Basically, I don't know what's the right word is for it, but yeah, he's been on there quite a bit. But no, just in general, to sum up Bob, he's just a very passionate individual and just about everything he does, and he always wants to, you know, be a man of the people and be one of the, you know, regular guys.
Bob Pockris, Fox Sports. You're one of the, they released like the top 10 of the fan vote currently, and you're one of the 10. Do you have any hopes of winning it, or do you think it's going to somebody else?
Yeah, I was thinking that's what this media availability is for. It's all the Vote for Guido campaign, right? No, I mean, a lot of people seen we've made some big pushes in the past, but I've been fortunate for my, you know, popularity or my rise through the ranks to have, you know, risen here over the past few years. So I'm in the best position I've ever been in. So I think we have the best shot by far this year to have the shot at winning that the fan vote. So, you know, I've been asked in the past why it's so, you know, important to me and the race team. But it's a big deal. It's, you know, big for, you know, your team, your sponsors, and everybody. So it is an important deal.
Brad Williams, SpeedwayDigest.com. Given some of your decent runs this year, how has your confidence level been compared to years past?
Yeah, the confidence is definitely something I've never lacked for sure. That's just how you have to be successful in this industry. As far as our performance this year, I'm not pleased with our results because of just random circumstances. I mean, it's been, you know, we've had great runs, great speed in our cars, but some of the results have been, you know, make you want to bash your head against the wall just because it doesn't reflect how good we are as a team. Like Daytona 500, you know, you lead the most laps and arguably have a dominant car and you crash. Phoenix, you know, we had a good car running 10th to 12th or so area, and alternator issue. When you look at the results, then we're whatever. It's all 27th or something. And many instances like that. Last weekend we had to start the tail and just couldn't quite get to where we were. Had a car that could have probably ran up in the top 10. We got stuck in 20th. It's just, I could go on and on. So the team does an amazing job. Toyota obviously is nothing but fast race cars this year. So I just hope to get in a rhythm where we're getting the finishes that reflect, the power of our team.
I think Bob had a follow-up, then we'll go Lee, Jerry.
I just wanted to follow up. I mean, do you think you have a better chance of winning the fan vote or winning one of the stages in the Open?
I think for sure we should have a shot at racing our way in, a very good shot based on the speed our cars have had pretty consistently this year. So that's the ultimate goal, and kind of the plan, but it also is nice to have the support of everybody pushing for us to, the Vote for Guido campaign and the cool response we got from the nickname. I don't want to call it change. I've been called Guido my whole life, but I guess for some people, change.
Lee?
Lee Spencer, RacingBoys.com. What has the transition been like with that team? And, specifically, I guess, working with Wheels, because I've got to think that having been a test driver for Gibbs, you were probably familiar with some of their systems, although that was a while back, and things do change.
Yeah, it's definitely been a big transition for not only just me but the whole team, because there's been so much change. Switching over to Toyota, the alliance with JGR, and all that, it's been great. But me working with the team and working with Wheels has been great. My job is a whole lot busier this year, and I've been fortunate to just grow and mature a lot over the years, and this would be a much tougher task to take on if I was a rookie or very inexperienced. It's been nice because we have guys that are so experienced, like Wheels coming in. It's a lot of transition for the team, but when you have, I feel like myself at this point, I have much more experience. You have somebody like Wheels who can come in and really help lead and direct the team in the right direction, and a lot of good people to make it where it was, it's gone smoothly, and our speed in our cars have shown that.
Do you believe LFR is at a place in time right now where they would be in a position to expand, if necessary, to 2 cars next year?
I don't really know. I think I'm so focused on just my stuff and our team and trying to get in a rhythm. I'll be honest with you, I just haven't paid it enough or any attention to give you a good answer, and probably some of the guys on the team would be better ones to ask than me. Yeah, no problem. Thank you.
Jerry Jordan, KickingTheTires.net. You took a big gamble, leaving Go Fast and everything, and the way you did, and then getting signed over here. What has that transition been like from a personal standpoint? And you look back, and what's your reflections on that now?
Yeah, thankful for sure is the word that I would use, and lucky, which has been my whole career to get to this point. But it was the most stressful time of my life. People know last year when I made that decision. But my whole life has been work to get to the Cup Series, and I want to win races, and I want to compete. So that's why I took that gamble and bet on myself. But this year my job's it's a lot of. I always put a lot of pressure and stress, on myself. To perform and do the best possible job I can, but my job's just a whole lot busier, a lot more going on, between, being at TRD a lot and being at the race shop a ton and looking at a whole bunch more data. So I'm pretty well 7 days a week this year, which is what I like, but I love and live for this stuff so much that when we don't, haven't gotten some of the results and finishes we have due to just some poor luck and circumstances, it really affects my week and my life at home more than anyone could possibly imagine, just because I don't do or really live anything else other than this.
Any additional questions for Matt? All right, thank you for your time. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Oh, that's an important question. Brian is doing good. Yeah, he's okay. He got bit by copperhead there yesterday, so But his face was all swollen up pretty bad. But we rushed him like we were rushing him to the hospital, but he's okay. He's doing better today. Swelling's starting to go down. He's on some pain meds, drugged up a little bit, yeah. Scary, man. He's like our child.
Yeah, that is, man, for sure. Thanks again. Thanks. Teen Auto Owners Insurance Toyota, Martin Truex Jr. If you have a question, raise your hand and we'll bring a mic your way.
Dylan Sherwood with the Emporia Gazette. Martin, when you were teammates with Boyer at Michael Waltrip, what was your relationship with Boyer?
We were teammates. It was good, but we were just teammates, like that was it.
Jerry?
Jerry Jordan, KickingTheTires.net. Kind of doing some wrap up for next week's All-Star race, just trying to get your thoughts, different drivers' input on what you can expect going out there, going for $1 million.
I'm not sure, really. I mean, we hadn't run Charlotte yet with this rules package, and there's going to be a few tweaks to it for Charlotte, so for the All-Star race. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think it'll be up in the air. Hopefully, it's fun. That's always a fun weekend. The All-Star race, the atmosphere, just the Saturday night short track feel, and in the short little stages, kind of like heat races, just with a lot on the line. It's usually just a lot of fun. You don't have to worry about points. So. It's fun all the way up until it's not. Like last year, we had a lot of fun, thought we could win it, and then we get caught up in a wreck, and our night's over, and then you're frustrated. So it's another race, but it's exciting, and it's a big night for the sport.
Clint Schweitzer, Great American Sports Network, obviously coming off the big win at Dover. 2 races in 5 days, put you in pretty exclusive company. What would that be like for you?
That would be awesome. I mean, I think to be able to win here with this package would be something good for us. We really haven't been stellar with it yet. We did run second in Atlanta and thought we had the best car at the end of the race, but that's a lot different than here and Vegas and some of the other places. So it'd be a big boost for our team, I think. To figure this package out. We had a little bit of a rough day today, but excited about racing here at Kansas, and it's been good to us. So hopefully we can get it dialed in, get some things figured out, this afternoon, tonight, and have a good run tomorrow evening.
Go to Lee and then Jeff and Chris.
Lee Spencer, Racing Boys. I was going to ask you about that incident in happy hour where all of a sudden Larson came across the front of your nose. Yeah, your eyes are getting big now. I mean, it was like, that was kind of a moment.
Yeah, one of those moments. An you know what moment.
Yes. Can you kind of describe what was going through you?
I seen him out of the corner of my eye. We were kind of almost not quite side by side, but I could see him got loose up at the top. And I'm staying wide open. I'm still wide open, and I can see he's coming down the track, pointing at me. It's like coming down this way, and I'm staying wide open. He keeps coming down. I'm like, oh man, make a decision here. You either got to hold it wide open or start to slow down at the last second. I mean, I just tried to step on the brakes because he was obviously coming down right there on my right front. So luckily he got it straight kind of just in time. I kind of got backed out of there just in time, and I think we actually touched, barely, about that hard. And so got pretty lucky there for sure.
Is the balance just really tricky to try to get this car dialed in, particularly on a track like this? A lot of guys talked about bouncing. I don't know if that was one of the sensations you felt, but with a track that's fairly smooth, that seems to be almost ironic that would be a description of the car.
Yeah, the first practice for us, we were bouncing so bad and so loose, we made 2 laps at a time. It was in and out of the garage trying to fix it, making big changes. So, yeah, it's definitely been difficult to hit it right with this car, with this package, on the 1.5 miles for sure. And it's so temperamental because you have to be wide open. The second you lift out of the gas just a little bit, you're losing a lot of time. And so there's just a fine line there of being really good and not being good at all. The bouncing part of it, I think a lot of the field has fought this year, even at a place like here where you think it's pretty smooth. There's actually some small little bumps in turn 1, and for whatever reason with this car this year, when you start hitting the splitter, it just, each time the splitter touches the track, it gets harder and harder and harder throughout the corner until you finally get straight and it stops. It's literally how it is. So it's been a big challenge, I think, for everybody. And honestly, I think even at the bumpy tracks, it was probably no less challenging than it is even at the smoother tracks. Thank you.
Jeff and then Chris.
Seems like there's a lot of underlying frustration with the drivers this year with the package, and sometimes it bubbles up. So obviously, that's there, and it's like it sort of exists. But how do you guys balance that feeling with being like, okay, this is what it is, and now we have to go embrace it? Like, for instance, Dover. I mean, obviously, everybody had a tough time with it, but then you guys had the challenge and you went out there and won. So what is the balance of that?
The balance at the end of the day is we got a job to do. We go out and do it. Like you mentioned, it seems like we only hear about it when it's somebody that's really frustrated. Like I could come in here right now and start complaining because I'm really frustrated. We had a bad practice. And at the end of the day, it is what it is. And until something changes, we got to deal with it. And if it never changes, we really got to deal with it. So we got a job to do, and I try to focus on that more than anything. We can talk behind closed doors about it as a team and as drivers together inside of a team or this and that, but it is what it is, and they're not going to change it on my account. So just try to do the best job I can with it.
Chris.
Yeah, Chris Knight, catchfence.com. Martin, next week, Catwalk for Our Cause. The initiative continues to get bigger and bigger every year. Just wondering if you could talk a little bit about it and what we can expect next week.
Yeah, looking forward to it. This is a big week for us. Looking forward to it, obviously, and it's our 10th anniversary, so definitely a big deal. We've got a lot of the heroes from years past coming back to be part of the show to see it, and got Cole Swindell again as an after party. My buddy Adam Sanders and my buddy Taylor coming to open for him. So we got some good music at the end, but the show is going to be awesome, and it sold out already. Obviously, it's been a special event for us. Great sponsors. Wells Fargo is a presenting sponsor. Toyota is a big part of it, as always, Toyota Racing. And everybody does so much for it and for us that it makes it a lot of fun to put it on. I know it's a lot of stress on everybody at the shop and our staff, but just really proud of what we've been able to do over the years and how much money we've been able to raise and our projects that we have going on right now with Novant in Charlotte and also in Huntersville. So some big things happening, and we've been able to give away a lot of money, so it's been really special. Hopefully this year we'll be able to raise a lot as well. Thank you.
Any additional questions for Martin, Nick, and then Pat?
Nick Bromberg, Yahoo Sports. When Kurt was in here earlier, he talked about, when you're making adjustments to the car, you can almost make the car too good when you're driving alone because you're so wide open and by yourself. How have you had to change the feedback that you give to the crew when you're in traffic on what your car needs when it is in traffic and making adjustments?
Yeah, that's the challenging part. There's so many approaches and options right now, on how you want your car to be, the things you want to work on, how fast do you want to be by yourself, how good can you make it in traffic without sacrificing too much speed is basically what it boils down to. So there's just a lot of different options when it comes to the cars that you can do, and I think just trying to find that right combination for us right now has been a little bit tricky. I felt like we've been on both sides of the drag part of it, and then we've been on both sides of the handling part of it so far, and we haven't quite hit it yet. So just searching a bit, but it's definitely tricky. And typically you try to make your car as fast as you can make it. That's how we always went. Tried to do, and you were always grip limited. So making your car handle better always paid off. Well, now it's not the case. Sometimes making your car handle better doesn't pay off. And that's difficult to get your arms around as a race car driver. Yeah, it feels better, but it's slower. We can't race that. Well, in my mind, it doesn't make much sense, but that's kind of the way it is. So it's tricky. It's a difficult balance.
Yeah, I want to follow up on that. Do you have to adjust your car differently, say you're running third than you are 15th?
There's no question that if you get out front, you want all the speed you can get. The problem is if you get back in 10th or 15th or 20th, all of a sudden it drives so bad you can't get back to the front. So that's where the difficulty level comes in.
Pat Nicole at NASCAR.com. It seems like we've hit this part of the schedule that's just so good for you between Dover, here, Charlotte, Sonoma. Is that just a coincidence that there's all these tracks that you're really good at in a row, or do you feel like you start to hit your stride maybe 10 races in?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think as a team this year, I think we're still kind of getting things going. But for sure, as racetracks are concerned, they're some of my best, I feel like, consistently. Won a lot of races at both places, has always seemed to be places I've been good at, even in years when maybe we weren't the fastest or we weren't winning races consistently. So yeah, a good stretch of tracks, no question. And a good part of the season for our team, especially this season right now. Thank you.
Reed?
Reed Spencer with NASCAR Wire. Given those extremes between in traffic and out front, clean air versus dirty air, are pit crews more important than they ever were?
No question. Yeah, pit stops, pit crews, time on pit road is more precious now than ever. And you got to look at also the field is closer than it's ever been, and that adds into that equation. A lot of pressure on those guys each and every weekend.
Go back to Clint in the back.
You won the championship, of course, 2 years ago, second place last year. How do you feel like that your team and your skills are trending right now as we head into 2019?
Yeah, I feel pretty good about where we're at. Still, like I said, we're still kind of trying to figure out this drafting package. I think not only for our team in general, but I think for me, I think it's so different than what I'm used to, and trying to figure out how I can kind of adapt my style and get better at it. Drafting and super speedways have never been my forte, and you kind of have to add a little bit of that super speedway drafting element to these mile and a halves now, which have always been pretty good to me. So I'm still trying to figure that out a little bit, but as far as our team's concerned and everything we've been doing lately, it's been really good, and hopefully we can just continue to improve week by week.
Anything else for Martin? All right, we appreciate your time.
Thank you, guys.